Yep.
Well, folks, like I said, welcome to Dawson City. Now, even though the Gold Rush was made in 1925, by that time Charlie Chaplin was king of the world. He was the biggest movie star in history. There's never been one approaching the fame of Charlie Chaplin.
They also think that he may have been the most famous person in the world as well.
And well, everybody knows him to this very day. But at that time, he had already been with S&A Studios. Remember we talked about Bronco Billy?
Yes.
And how Bronco Billy stole him to go to S&A. So he had already been with Senate. He had already been with S&A. Then they formed United Artists. United Artists was formed with
D.W. Griffith.
Charlie Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks, and
Yeah,
Mary Pickford.
That's what.
They had formed United Artists. And Charlie Chaplin had been doing shorts, and the shorts were so popular, folks, that actually people would wait for them to get to the theater. They would release on average about one a week. And the shorts were so popular, people would line up, knowing there's a Chaplin picture coming. They were actually able to make deals saying, if you don't take this little turkey movie over here, you don't get the next Chaplin. And that's how they started controlling how the theaters worked, because everybody wanted the Chaplin pictures. So anyway, 1924 abouts, you have to remember, believe it or not, Great Gold Rush had only been 25 years earlier.
Right.
So in 1924, he got the idea there was two big historic events in American history. The Gold Rush, and what was the other one?
Donner Party Match.
The Donner Party. And can you imagine? Chaplin said, hey, those are two really important events in the last 75 years. So that'd make a good comedy. It's the last thing you think of. A bunch of people got together and cannibalized each other. Boy, wouldn't that be a laugh riot?
Donner Dinner Party.
The Donner Dinner Party, exactly. But out of that odd combination, Charlie Chaplin came up with the story for the Gold Rush. Now, another thing about Chaplin is he didn't do scripts. Did you know that about him?
No.
He did not write screenplays. He did not write scripts. He came up with concepts. And so they would have an outline. Here's what the movie's going to be about. This scene, this scene, this scene, this scene. Then they would get together with all the actors and you'd say, okay, now here's how we're going to do it. And they would improvise and they would build on just a little bitty idea. And then the whole scene would come out of that. That's why he was very notorious for doing 100, 150 takes in a scene to get the scene the way he wanted it. Because they were basically creating it. And he would do it over and over and over. And that's how the Gold Rush came to be. He said, here's the concept, now we're going to shoot it. So they went to Truckee, Nevada.
I was going to ask, didn't they shoot it in two different locations?
Mostly in Truckee. They went to Truckee, Nevada, and they got up there in the cold and the snow and everything. And in the very beginning of the movie, there's that famous scene you've already seen where they're going up over Chilkoot Pass.
Right.
And you've seen the photographs of the guys back to back, hundreds of people. He created that so precisely that if you see a picture from the movie The Gold Rush and a picture from Chilkoot Pass, if you didn't know what you was looking for, you wouldn't know which is which.
He got hundreds of extras to do that scene.
Over 600, or 600 to 800 extras.
For 25 seconds.
It ends up to be about 25 seconds. They shot in Truckee for approximately 3 months. At the end of 3 months, they all were cold and they were wet, and he got influenza. At the end of 3 months, they said, you know what? Let's do the rest of this in the studio. So all those great scenes you're seeing where it looks like they're out in the wilderness. Remember the scene where the one guy shoots the guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would have sworn that was shot outdoors. No, that's all on set. Matter of fact, the only two scenes they ended up using, you know the two scenes they used?
Is one of them where he falls down with the cane?
Yes.
Is that one of them?
And then he flips over and slides down his rear end.
That's one
That's
where they.
the scene.
Okay.
They used that one, and they used the Chilkoot Pass scene. They scrapped everything else from those 3 months and shot it all indoors. Now, then things even get more difficult. This movie ended up being a very expensive, probably one of the most expensive movies ever made at that time, and time-consuming for them. Howdy, folks. If you like Westerns, you're looking at the actual set of The Outlaw Josie Wales. You like to watch Westerns? Watch Draw Western Theater here on WBON Channel 9. Welcome back, folks. You know, by 1924, like I said, Chaplin was absolutely at the zenith of his power. He could do anything he wanted to do. So he takes the whole camera crew to go to Truckee. They shoot for 3 months. Then they move to the sets, and they're spending money like crazy, and they're shooting, and they made everything look authentic. Well, Lita Gray was the leading lady in it. And 6 months into production, she finds out that she's pregnant. And so everybody said, well, Charlie, you're going to have to take 2 to 3 months off. Let her have the child, and then we'll get back to shooting. Chaplin said no. He went ahead and he married her, because that was absolutely what you did back in those days. You married somebody. And so he married her, and then decided to completely take her out of the picture. So he decided to reshoot the whole 6 months they already had in the can. So they started shooting all over again with Georgia Hale.
Well, they were friends. That was another reason why her and Lee Gray were friends.
Now, wait, she's friends with, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And now she's a beauty contest winner, right?
She won a beauty contest, took the prize money, went to New York to Broadway, didn't really have any luck there, and then went on out to Los Angeles.
And became a star out there.
Yes.
And of course, you know, the rest is history. Her and Charlie hit it right off, and some say in more ways than one.
And this was her first movie.
That was her first movie.
Very first
she
movie.
does a wonderful job. And it's kind of obvious who she's playing in this, right?
Yes.
Klondike Kate?
I think so. I think if she's not Klondike Kate, she's one of the other ones that. I'm sure she wasn't Diamond Tooth Gertie. That's another. Did you guys know even Calamity Jane spent time up there in
No,
Goldrush?
that
Yes.
Diamond Tooth Gertie.
Yes, she actually had a diamond in her tooth. Now they didn't show her in the movie, but
No.
I was amazed though. Even though when they moved inside on set like that, like I said, the sets were so beautiful, and the cinematography in this movie is absolutely way ahead of its time. And at that time, Charlie was making well over $1 million a year, and that money back then was just amazing.
Well, let's see. One thing I read, Klondike Kate made $30,000 a year, and
Right.
that was the equivalent of $1 million our time.
1.2. Yeah.
So if you're making $1 million then,
You're making big money.
oh God,
I mean, he was at the top of his game. One other thing, too, about the cast, Max Swain is in it. And one story I thought was really interesting about Max Swain. When Charlie Chaplin, the legendary part where Charlie Chaplin decided to create his character and he went into the wardrobe. And we've all seen that in the movie, Chaplin. But it's also in his autobiography, that he walked in and they said, okay, go get dressed. And he didn't like the outfit that they had put him in before. They made him look like a dandy.
now this is Chaplin.
It's Chaplin. And so he goes in and sorry about that, Bob. So he goes in and he says, he picks a coat from one person, he picks Fatty Arbuckle's big trousers, he picks the giant shoes, and then he picks the derby. And he comes back out and he is Chaplin. He is the little tramp at that point. But one thing that ties it to this movie, Max Swain wore a big old handlebar mustache. Remember he plays Big Jim in this?
Yes.
Well, that big mustache was fake. It was made out of crepe hair. So when Big Jim would make his big fake mustache, he would cut it and shape it and stuff and go out and set. When Charlie went in and he was getting all of his outfit together and stuff, there was a wad of crepe hair that Max Swain had dropped in the floor. And Charlie picked up that wad of hair, stuck it to his lip, and went out the door. So that is Max Swain's mustache on the Little Tramp. Isn't that amazing?
No, wait, I thought he actually had that mustache.
He grew it later, but when he first dressed as that, when he first created the Tramp, that was fake hair. It was a little,
So was this the first movie where the Little Tramp actually came to be?
No, the Little Tramp had been going at this point almost 10 years. You know, that's 25. I think 1918 might have been the first appearance of Little Tramp right around there. 1918, 1920.
Okay.
I have to look and see, but it was he only did like 2 or 3 pictures before he actually created that character. Once he created that character, it took off. And the character only appeared in one short little comedy sketch in one of the Senate movies, Keystone movies. And but the character was just, you couldn't take your eyes off him. He shows up on the scene drunk, and he was the Little Tramp.
Now, one thing I did read is that's, except for the movie The Dictator, that is the only character he played. Every movie he made, he was the Little Tramp.
Well, in Great Dictator, he actually let the Little Tramp talk. And he thought that when the Little Tramp talked, that was the end of the Little Tramp. He always said it. He hung on to silent movies much longer than anybody else did. He was still making silent pictures right in his mid-30s, and everybody else wasn't. And everybody else said, you got to get away from silent pictures. But he said, the minute the little tramp talks, it's over for the little tramp. So when he let the little tramp talk in The Great Dictator, that was the end of the tramp.
Wow.
After that, he did several movies after that, but never again as the little tramp. Isn't that fascinating?
That really
But we're
is.
seeing the little tramp at absolute his best in this movie. There are several iconic scenes in this movie.